Welcome to the Real Talk Show, everyone. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining us. Come on in, come on in, come on in. We have started the show. I know you guys are getting those notifications. I just got one even on my phone. So go ahead and join us today on the Real Talk Show. I've got an amazing guest I'm super excited about. Who is going to be kind of sharing her story and talking with us about some great things that she has taking place. So, welcome to the Real Talk Show. I am Dr. India White, your host, and here I have Miss Precious Swain, who is a phenomenal entrepreneur. Guys, I'm talking, she is far stretched. I read her bio and was just honored. And then I got even more blessed because she is actually going to be a part of the Power of an Overcomer book collaboration that we'll be launching this fall. So we're excited to have her. So Precious, welcome. Welcome to the Real Talk Show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And
Yes,
I'm definitely excited about being part of this book. Definitely.
definitely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Precious.
Well, I'm really just the typical woman. I'm happily married, mother, grandmother, the whole woman thing going on. But aside from that, of course, we all have an assignment. So, pastor, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, domestic violence advocate, and all of this kind of just
Wow.
mingles together in a little pot. You
Right.
know, um, author, but not. I don't write novels. I write nonfiction. The series I have right now is a testimony about my life and how our Heavenly Father has brought me through so many things to get me to where we are. So I was very, very happy to be part of Power of an Overcomer because my story is the story of someone who was placed in different situations just to prove that you can overcome them. I
Right.
really believe that it was just designed that way.
This is amazing. And I know you said that, you know, you're an author. I know you're an entrepreneur. And I wanted to just kind of have you shine a little bit and talk about some of the things that you are involved in. I know you mentioned also that I read your bio, so I cheated a little bit, and it says that you also are the owner of Swain Girl Media. Talk to me a little bit about that. What's that all about?
Well, Swain Girl Media is me and my daughters, and it's a publishing company. We
Oh,
publish not only my books, but we have five other authors that we've published, and we have distribution with Amazon Prime. So release
okay.
independent film and independent series through Amazon Prime as well. So it's really exciting. It was when I wrote my first book, I had to have a way to put it out. So I was like, this is something I could do with my daughters.
Beautiful.
And because I'm married and I'm now a Peaks, the company name is my maiden name. So it carries my father's legacy.
Oh, wow. That's so nice. And I also read something really interesting about you. You're an accountant? Where did you go to school? Tell me about that. How did all that get
Oh my
going? That's
goodness.
amazing.
Well, now that I have to admit that I'm 100 years old, I went to Cal State Dominguez. Out of high school, I went to LA Trade Tech. Did my first 2 years, transferred to Dominguez, then got my degree. Moved to the South. It's a little touch and go. I was a little dark to get in some of the offices, so I had no other choice but to work for myself. And so that's what I did. I love it. People find it weird, but I'm highly analytical. Like I can't draw a straight line. I
Yeah.
don't catch straight, but I'm really, really good with numbers and detail and things like that.
Love it. Love it. I love a math brain when I see one. So it's great. And so how long have you been doing accounting for?
30 years.
Oh wow. So have you been in business for yourself 30 years or oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
How was that? How was that getting started? Being when you first started your entrepreneurship.
Honestly, it was difficult. It was very difficult. Um, at that time, yes, women had businesses, but women didn't really have businesses, especially women of color. And normally, when you met people, because when I started out, I didn't just hop out, I'm just going to be an accountant and just handle normal clients. No, I hopped out with a niche in entertainment. So because I had done my college internship with a record label in their accounting department, I grew this love for artists and musicians and studio, the whole studio thing. And so when I hopped out niche related because in the process I had learned PRO and I learned copyright and I learned the underlay to that. So I had it kind of mixed all together with the bookkeeping and the contract negotiation and all of that. And they were more used to women being assistants or decorations on the casting couch or whatever. So it was very interesting coming in and into what was considered a male dominated world and commanding the respect,
Love it.
commanding people to see this instead of whatever else you had going on. And
Right.
so it was a struggle. It was definitely a struggle.
Now, were you ever? How did you deal with intimidation? And also, it's like you have a pioneering spirit to you. It seems like you just go out and you begin things. You're like the first one to do it, and you're usually, just kind of alone in your own class as you're making strides. So, how did you deal with intimidation factors, maybe from various people that you came across?
To be very honest, my childhood kind of prepared me for all of that because I went through so much as a child. I'm kind of I'll give you the shirt off my back, but I'm kind of mean. So it's kind of like
The meanness.
very ready for the fight. It was like, oh, I'm ready. Mm, Dukes up the whole time. And prayer, lots of prayer have gotten me to where I am now because back then it was nothing to say whatever. If you wanted to go outside, we can go outside and handle whatever. It was very raw, very cutthroat, very just not all that ladylike, just to be honest.
Yeah, and I can imagine, and in your book, The Power of Overcomer, I'm sure you're gonna talk to us a little bit about that. But I'm so interested in asking you, what were the key components that you think helped you become an overcomer that you are today?
Prayer, prayer. I will be 100% honest and say that I had praying grandmothers. And the fact that when you get a good foundation, no matter where you go or what you go through, you never forget your foundation. So when I was coming up, I had this fantasy world that couples didn't even fight. My grandmother and grandfather were solid on both sides. I saw my grandfather be a man's man. He worked, he paid every bill. My grandmother was at home, did
Nice.
whatever women do at home. And this is what I saw. So this is what I knew no matter what I did, I had to get back to this structure. My grandmother always taught us to read and pray. And she always taught us no matter what we did, we were never too filthy because we were never going to be clean. We would never be perfect.
Right.
Her teaching me that made it where I was never afraid to go and pray. You know how in some
Yeah.
situations you may feel like, oh, I'm unworthy or I can't. Because she taught us that way, I always felt like I can go to my father.
That's
You know
nice.
what I mean? And so it was the prayer.
So, do you think that that influence from your grandmothers inspired you to be the pastor that you are today? And how was that? How? Tell me about that whole chapter, becoming a pastor.
Well, to be very honest, I everywhere I go, they would say, "Oh, you have a calling. You're called to be an evangelist." I'd be like, "No, me? No, not me." And I pretty much ran. And then one day I stopped and realized that I was only fooling me because no matter where I was, people would randomly come across, complete strangers would randomly come across and start a conversation that led me to have to refer them to scripture, refer them to prayer, give them some kind of guidance. So a lot of people think that they're avoiding their calling because they're not standing in a pulpit. Let me go ahead and let you know you ain't fooling nobody but you. You're already ministering. Okay. And so I went through the classes, I went through the training, and I did all of the great things, and you have to do your trial sermons. And then I went into being a youth leader, and the whole while there were just different things that were pulling me because because of my upbringing, I visited some of every kind of church, Catholic, Baptist, Pentecostal. And when you've seen a little of everything, you kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. I know I probably shouldn't do that. And then when you're reading scripture, some things you just figure, well, hey, that isn't exactly what scripture told me to do. So I was out just kind of like on an island, just like, what do I do? And he said, you're going to give my word to my people. And I was like, but they're not, why would they listen to me? I'm a heathen, right? And he was like, I knew who you were when I called you. I designed you just for this. And so the whole while I was in the traditional church, I would always feel drawn to go out. That the people that I needed to reach, that were not designed for me to reach, were in the street. And that part of my personality structure and just who I was a setup so that the people who wouldn't come in, I would be able to go out and still reach them. And so, of course, you have to do all your structure. So I did all my paperwork and everything, not so that I can get a building, because I had a whole building that would hold 150 people and wouldn't didn't do anything in it. I was outside dealing with the homeless, dealing with those in the shelter, dealing with those in the projects, physically, like not just preaching about, oh, you should do. I'm going to get out here with you. We're going to plant some seeds. We're going to give some food. We're going to give some blankets. We're going to give some clothes. You don't have a Bible, we're going to donate some Bibles. And so that's really how it went. And so I tell everybody, even though I'm the founder and the acting pastor right now of New Visions, I have a husband and he is the head of that house also.
Awesome. So, so when you started the work, did you start it by yourself or did you start it with your husband?
I started by myself. I'm just that
Hmm.
I'm just that kind of person.
I
So
like your spirit. I just like the grit, and I like you're just you're just able to get up and go, 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 and get it done. I love that. And I commend you because I see you're fulfilling roles that are usually discriminated against when it comes down to women. Usually, women aren't seen as pastors. Women aren't really seen as like expert accountants. Like, I mean, more so now than before. But
yeah.
it seems like you have just taken the ball and run with it. Now, especially because some people they might say, "Oh, I don't believe in women pastors." How was your experience when you got the call and the Lord spoke to you and said that you're a pastor?
When we I was studying and you learn that a minister serves, which I've always done, that the deacon does this. And then it was like the pastoral role is simply just kind of heading the house. But like I said, technically for me, I I'm an acting until he decides to step in and do it. I founded it, but even in the situation, the same way he heads our home, he he's the control. He's the head of the ministry. He just chooses not to take and actually preach,
Hmm.
but we agree, we talk, we pray, and all of that to prepare for everything.
Hmm.
And I just let my father use me. I
Well,
really just let him use me.
I think that's great, and definitely keep up the great work. I also see that you're a co-owner of Imprecious Entertainment Services. So you've got all these different hats, all these multiple streams of income. So tell us about the Imprecious Entertainment Services.
Actually, the Imprecious Entertainment Services was the very first business, and that's where I was telling you I came right out in my internship and just started doing the PRO, the copyright, and guiding these independent artists into learning how to be professional. Copyright your music, send your stuff to BMI or ASCAP. And during that time, a lot of them were losing a lot of money because they didn't know how to protect themselves. They didn't know how to protect their publishing, and so there was a niche for that. I moved from just artists to the independent labels, and the whole while the two kind of worked together. So I broke the two apart maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
About 5 years ago, I said some of the clients I need to reach are afraid of the clients I deal with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I need to break and do the accounting all by itself. I'll continue to offer accounting to my Imprecious Entertainment clients, but I need to have a whole separate business to cater to my older clients, my corporate clients. Because when you're dealing in entertainment, people think it's a color thing. No, entertainers are entertainers, no matter their color. They all come with a little, we'll call it bubbly stuff. And so the other thing that I did through Imprecious Entertainment was I would try to help young men come out of the street and into business. So a lot
Beautiful.
of my clients were very rough around the edges, and some of their pants may have still sagged, some of them still may have had braids, some of them still may have cursed a little bit. And
Mhm.
so I needed to separate the two. And so when I separated the two, I went ahead and started Anointed for Prosperity. And it was because through prayer, my father just showed me, okay, you've made lots of money and you've done really good with this and you've blessed a lot of people, but you need a place for your other side of your clientele base so the two don't intervene. And because of the services that you're going to give them, they will be anointed for prosperity. If they listen to the things that I put in you for them to do next, if they tithe, if they pray, if they will be anointed for prosperity if they walk in it. And so
That's
then my
amazing.
business was
Wow.
born.
So welcome. If you guys are joining us, welcome to the Real Talk Show. I'm here with serial entrepreneur, Pastor Precious Swain, who is co-owner of Imprecious Entertainment. She's an author, motivational speaker. She's a life coach. She's an accountant. She is not sitting around. So
Can't.
I want to talk to you now, Precious, about your journey as an author. How did all that start, and how did you stumble across the Overcomer book series?
Well, as a child, I always wrote. Creative writing was my escape from the world. And when I got married and started having children, I had to kind of cut back on writing. So I wanted to release a book series, and my husband at the time was like, "No, we got to do this. We got to raise these kids. You don't have time to rewrite." So when I got my divorce, the very first thing I did was release a book. So I'll be honest and tell you, I released the book being rebellious. I'm going to prove now that I could do what you thought I couldn't.
Yes.
So my first set of books, to be very honest, was an erotica series.
Hmm.
I wanted to really prove that everything they thought I couldn't do or say or whatever that I could do. And I just jumped both feet in. And when I wrote the book, I had not thought of a publisher. I had not tried to shop it. I didn't know what I was going to do with the book. I just said, I just wrote the book. And then I said, wait a second. You don't have to do anything. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose, but you're going to play. And so I did the research and I said, oh, okay, I could put it up myself. And at that time, Create Space was what
Yeah.
was really hot. So I released the book on Create Space and put the book on Kindle. And I was surprised because clearly a lot of people read erotica. And I was like, whoa. So then I released book two. Hey, I'm really doing something now. I was like, whoa. Then I released book three. Then I stopped. I said, hold on. Because now I was in study, I was growing. The growth was, well, these two worlds aren't gonna really mix well.
Right.
And so I took a few years. Of course, I was going through everything, and I heard in my spirit that I was supposed to release um, my testimonial series. I was like, I can't tell that story. People won't like me if I tell that story. That story is embarrassing. That story is ugly. That story talks about drug addiction and molestation and rape. I can't tell that story because everybody sees me now and I seem like a success. What would they think of me if they knew my mother was a heroin addict? So time passes, and through my disobedience, I find myself in a place that I'm sick. I'm so sick, I can't work. I'm so sick, I'm literally in the bed. So all the excuses I had for not writing the book were not excuses for me
Hmm.
anymore. And so while I was just in bed sitting, I heard, okay, write the book. And I sat up and I promised the first book. It's almost embarrassing to say. The first book I had to let go. I sat up, didn't go to sleep. Started the book, did not go to sleep till I finished the book. Was up 2 days straight typing out this book. I made the cover myself, a little raggedy little cover, but it was mine. And um, I released the book. And that book was about my marriage that I had just come out of, and dealing with the embarrassment of infidelity, and dealing with the low self-esteem and depression that comes from spousal abuse and verbal, financial types of spousal abuse. And people begin to reach out to me and say, I've known you all these years. I didn't know you were going through that.
Hmm.
Because I was determined that what people saw was the best of me at all times. Because even as, and people don't think it could happen, but even as a successful businesswoman, even as a woman with a degree, even with all of this going on, you can still be a battered woman.
Yes.
You can still be a broken woman. You can still carry a broken little girl inside of you.
Yep. Hmm.
And so when I released that book, the second one came like a month later, and it's called Deceptions of Adult Boy. And what the title makes people think it bashes men, but it really doesn't. What it talks about is how we as women formulate in our mind that we want the bad boy. We
Mm.
want the boy with the quick money. And in some cases, there are young women that live in lower income environments that are taught that this type of guy is what you go after so that you have a secure life or so that your bills are paid. And so we as women go through these phases where everything about us is a lie. Our hair is a lie.
Ah.
Our boobs a lie. Our butts a lie. Our our whole thing is a lie. And we put on our lie and we go out the door to find a man, whether it's for bills, whether it's for sex, whether it's for whatever. And then when we find this man and he turns out to have lied about something, then our whole world is shattered. We're blasting him on social media. We're talking about him to our friends. But how did we expect to get the truth when we started with a lie?
Mm, it's good stuff.
So the moral of that book is you lied, so you gotta lie. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
in the
That's
series is things like that, and it's very transparent. So I'm in a few writers groups on Facebook, and I saw this post about the Overcomer book, and I reached out because I was like, if I don't know anything else, I know the power of being an overcomer, because when it starts young, when your own family says you're never going to make it, or you're going to be just like your mama, or you're going to be this or that, and then your father opens door after door after door to bring you through, you got to tell somebody that story. Because what I learned is it's not for my cheerleading and pom pomming, it's for his glory.
exactly.
And he allows us to go through it because there's someone else that will be able to help. We may never know who we're helping by telling our story.
That's the truth.
We never know who's about to give up, who's about to try to kill themselves, who's about to do whatever. And then they hear your story and see that you made it.
That's so
And
good.
so when I heard the title, I said, I really have to do that. And so I reached out to you and we talked, and I said, I got to do it. I said, I really have to do it. And so when you sent over how you want it, I said, I got to keep it short, but I got to let them know that no matter what it looks like, it's in you. You just have to let it out. Success is in you.
That's
Beauty
beautiful.
is in you. Truth is in you. All of these things are in you.
That's
But
awesome.
if you let the enemy keep you in one place, because he doesn't have power unless you give it to him.
Right.
That's a whole nother interview. Okay.
That is so true. That is so true. The thing I think about too, if you guys are joining us, welcome to the Real Talk Show. I'm here with Precious Swain, who's an entrepreneur and co-author of The Power of an Overcomer. And we're talking about this book series of Overcomer, where we have several of authors that have given their stories and talked about how they were able to overcome. And, you just talked about how basically you need to understand the power that you have in order to overcome. And so I know some people deal with intimidation, and I'm sure that the enemy has a lot of people backed up in the corner. And I'm sure that even in your own life, you have certain testimonies that you can definitely remember. I was backed up in the corner, especially you being an advocate for women that are going through, battered women going through domestic violence. I'm sure many women would love to hear more about that as well. But what do you think really, really helped you overcome that intimidating factor and the fear and, just the uncertainty of, I mean, when you're dealing with a divorce, I understand that when you're dealing with a divorce, um, you don't know what's next, right? And when children are involved like this, there's so much. So how did you use the power within you to overcome in that season and then to then cross over into your wealthy place?
To be very honest, because of childhood, I go back there. I have what's called reactive attachment disorder. And so some people wouldn't admit that, but I have no fear about all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
so because of that, I don't really attach well. Where some people get so close and so clingy, what people think is a personality disorder is what really saved my life. Because had I attached the way other people attach, anything may have happened. But because it's so easy for me to say, okay, and really mentally shut down and you don't exist, it was easier for me to walk away. So
Mm.
even when I was backed in a corner, because I always had to fight, I just thought I was supposed to fight. And ignorantly, I just fought my way through. And
Wow.
so even even in situations from a spiritual nature, because the enemy will throw some things at you, and you will be like, whoa, hold on. I don't know if I want to fight that. You have to, when I really started digging in and realizing that when scripture said we have the power to bind and loose, that we
That's
really were
powerful.
supposed to use it. Warfare is real. And if you really want to break free through some things, you got to start speaking it out of your mouth and putting it into the atmosphere. You can't be scared to call on your father. See, what happens is in some cases we get so cute. We forget that sometimes we got to holler out, cry out, scream out, lay on the floor, and roll out if we need to. But we need to let our father know we need him and we need him then. And we get so used to, I got to pray for some money. No, when we get back to the basics and just begin to first communicate like our father, like he's our father,
Right.
not just when we need something. I'm going to come talk to you about what I just did. And I know you already know what I did, but I'm going to come talk to you about it because what I did was probably wrong. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you I was wrong and ask you to help me not do this again. Because sometimes it's our own positioning. Because we have free will, we're so busy trying to do stuff.
Right.
Because I couldn't succeed until I failed.
That's good.
A lot of people won't catch
No,
that.
unstoppable. And
But
so
I couldn't succeed until I failed.
what advice, I just kind of want to give you the floor. What advice do you have for women that um really just are going through that tough spot? They're trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces again, how to start over. Um, and they're wanting to come out, but they're not quite sure how to overcome.
This is what I'm going to say. Just do it. When I went through my divorce, it was such a low place that I was in a hotel with my children. I was homeless, carless, and jobless. But my father never let me miss a meal. I'm not even sure how the room got paid for.
Hmm.
Let me just be 100 for it. I don't even know how the room got paid for. But each step, I never stopped. People around me never knew. I was still on social media doing my thing, like, and my business was still rolling, and we were surviving off of what came in through PayPal and the different methods. And I never let it seem like I was going through something. You have to put on your boots. You have to march. And you can't let people see you sweat. Even if in the midnight hours you are crying your heart out, you have to believe that you can do it and just get out and do it. I have walked to jobs. I have caught buses. I have taken my children to work with me. I have had to do all kind of things to get where I am. It was not easy, but you only are going to get over the mountain if you climb up. You can't sit at the bottom of the mountain and say it's too high. You have to get up and climb up and get to the top of that mountain. Once you get up there, you'll realize it wasn't as hard as it looked like from the bottom. But from the bottom looking up, it's always going to seem like a struggle. When you have that last dollar, it always seems like you're going to be broke forever, but you're not broke then. Only in your pocket. What is your mind telling you? Your mind, think your way through. Don't be scared to sell sandwiches. Don't be scared to sell water. Don't be scared to get out and do something. There's always a way out. Pray and have faith that your Father will hear your prayers. Faith is very important.
Wow, that is powerful. I just had to give you the floor. I'm going to give you the floor again because I just want to hear more of your testimony. I know there's probably going to be women that were dealing with domestic violence and men. And I want to just hear, how did you know that that was like your calling to just start helping them and to help them transition, help them overcome? And maybe, do you have any testimonies that you could share, or maybe something you've even written in the book? I just want you to talk for a couple minutes to our audience and just shine for a minute. Just talk to us. How did you do that, and how have you helped others?
Well, I have a book called A Victim No More, and A Victim No More tells very transparent, very graphic stories of my experiences with domestic violence. I was at one point a victim. Problem is, I was too hard headed to realize I was a victim because I had fought so much as a child and everything around me was fight, fight, fight. I believed that if you fought, it was just a fight. I didn't believe you were a victim if you hit back. I didn't believe you were a victim if you argued back. I figured it was just two people in a fight. You should not be hit. You should not be kicked. A lot of people don't realize that there's a such thing as financial abuse. If you solely depend on someone else and they use money to manipulate or control you, verbal abuse, you don't have to be yelled at and screamed at and called out of your name. And when I realized all that I had been through and the fact that I was even still alive, I knew that I had to reach back and help someone else. On my blog, I spoke about men hurt too. So often we overlook men as a victim, but men get molested, men get raped, men get beat, believe it or not, by women. And they hurt. They just hurt different than we do. We are more open, where they're more shut in. And so, one thing I learned about being a domestic violence victim is hurt people hurt people. So, men that normally do a lot of hitting and screaming and yelling and verbal abuse have experienced or seen someone very close to them go through it. Either they experienced it themselves or they saw their mother, their aunt, their sister, somebody go through this behavior. And so that's what they know. And in so many cases, they think that this is a form of love. This is a way to keep you. This is a way to keep you close to them. This will keep you from leaving. They don't really always understand. And then some are just narcissistic. They just want to control everything. It's different levels, but you have to know when to let go, when to get away. I was blessed to get away before I either got killed or killed somebody. But when I got all the way to the point where I had physically got a firearm with the intentions of harming my ex husband, I knew at that point things had gone too far. And from that point on, I made a plan. Be very, very, very diligent in making a plan. Don't just get up and leave, because if you just get up and leave with no plan and then you have to come back, it's only going to be worse. You have to know where you're going. You have to have some kind of money put up. You have to have some point of reference, someone that's going to help you. You have to lay a foundation, because if you just get up and randomly leave and then you don't have anywhere else to go, then you end up going back. So talk to somebody. Find somebody you trust and talk. I'm going to I have some of the book here. If there's anyone that reaches out to me and references the show, I will send you a copy of the book. The book doesn't only have the story, it also has references for each state of who you can call if you're in a situation where you feel like you need to escape or you're experiencing domestic violence. If you inbox or message me, I will definitely do whatever I can to help you find the resources you need to get out of the situation.
Thank you so much, Precious, for sharing that. That is powerful. You said so many different things that was just on the money, especially about making a plan and knowing when to let go. Now, I know there are many women, and this is kind of, just kind of going with the flow, many women that might have been in a abusive situation, whether emotional, verbal, physical, or all the above, and they might want to start over, and they need to know what signs to look for in a man, and a good man, not just any man. We don't want the narcissist. We don't want um, the foolishness. So, what advice would you give to them as far as looking for someone or receiving someone? Because I think, I'm old school, when a
Yeah.
man like, so, when a man thinks they found you, how do you go through those steps to make sure that you're not going right back in the cycle?
To be very honest, when I got my divorce, I stayed single for 5 years. No dating, no nothing. And the reason was because I needed to heal.
Yes.
Because if I didn't heal, then I would then be the hurt person that hurt someone else.
Mm,
Because even if I didn't hit or talk crazy, the way I would have been pulled back, I would not have given all I should give as a wife.
wow. So
So,
do you
hmm?
think this is so powerful? I find that some people that have also been hurt, they do the same thing in business. Um, so the healing process is imperative. What did you do uh, to make sure that you healed?
Oh, oh goodness. Let me tell you, it was a process. I'm an imperfect person, so I'm gonna put that out there. But I went through moments that I was angry, moments that I was sad, moments that I was depressed, moments that I would go into a shell, moments that I would be all the way out, and I had to kind of find balance in me. And so my husband, we were friends for years.
That would
I
be
didn't even think he liked me. I didn't look at him that way. But the whole while, it was kind of a grooming process. And so sometimes your husband is right around you, but it's not time for him to be your husband yet.
right.
And so I waited. I wasn't waiting for him. I was just waiting. I wasn't sure what I was waiting for, but
Right.
I knew that I was not a good choice of character for men because remember, the whole dope boy story and this and that. So clearly I needed my father to send who he designed for me. Because here's the other thing. When they're designed for you, they'll be prepared for what you come with.
Right.
So when they're designed for you, they may not know what you've been through, but they'll have the heart to be able to love you through
Right.
whatever you bring with you.
Now, were you
They'll
ever
be able to deal with, huh?
nervous that your husband would not receive you because of what you had been through?
At first, and so I didn't really talk to him or share with him. This is way before he became my husband. Um, I didn't. He knew me while I was going through my divorce. He never knew. He knew me while I was going through my homelessness. I didn't tell him. You know, all of these things were going on. He never knew. And so, as we became friends, I still kind of didn't share it with him. I was still kind of. And one day he sat down and he said, "My father told me you're my wife, and I'm going to marry you." He didn't ask. He told me, and I'm going to marry you. I said, well, we need to talk and I need to tell you some things. He said, my father told me everything I need to know.
Wow.
I say, hmm. See, this is new for me because, I'm the pushy one. And
Right.
I was like, whoa, okay. And so as time went on, at first I was like, this can't be real. This is crazy. He didn't say anything else. He planned a wedding. He did everything. Didn't say anything else. He texted me and told me where I needed to be, when I needed to be there.
What kind of man is this? This is good.
I promise. You got to read the book, okay? And so
Wow.
it doesn't always happen like that, but you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt when your father has sent him because he'll know parts of you that you've never shared.
Hmm.
He'll know your thoughts on certain things without you ever telling him because in his preparation, in his training, in the Heavenly Father preparing him for you, he's shown him what to look for. And so you just have to know and just know they're not going to be perfect. Just like we're not perfect, neither are they, but they'll be perfect for you. You kind of know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. So, did you ever like after you said, "Okay, God sent you for me"? Did you go back to pray? Did you like how did all that? Because I know people listening on this podcast probably did not necessarily have that experience when they were getting married. So, I mean, what did you do as a result?
When he sent the text, I called my kids. I don't know what to do. So I have 7 kids.
Oh,
So my kids kicked into gear like it was the Cinderella story. Like I had little mice, and one is doing my hair, and the other one is in the mall looking for clothes, and I'm late, of course. And it's not a whole lot of people there, only the very closest of close friends, because who nobody else would have probably kept it a secret. And we got married in one of my favorite places. It's called Shalom Park. It's a very beautiful, peaceful park. Of course, by the name you can tell.
yeah,
And I thought about getting remarried and doing a big thing and inviting people and all that. But the way he did it was so special. I was just so very content and happy with just the fact that someone cared and thought so much of me that they took all this time and planned and snuck and did all of this stuff for me till I was just really just blown away. And so often I just say a special prayer because you know you know that your father sent when they go through this much. And we still argue. We still all do all the stuff normal couples do. Nobody agrees 100%. But for women out there that are unsure, pray. Ask for revelation. If there's no revelation, then don't move forward till there is. If he can't come to you and pray with you or tell you what's going on from a kingdom standpoint, if he can't meet you here spiritually, don't get into a relationship where you are unequally yoked.
that's the truth.
And don't be afraid to be by yourself,
Hmm.
because what happens when we're by ourselves, we get antsy because we don't necessarily like what we see.
Hmm.
We might look real good to the public, but boy, we get by ourselves and we get to being like, "Whoo, who is this? Ooh, I don't like this." Because we have to face who we really are. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes that's not easy because I say all the time, yes, I have a degree and yes, I have, but boy, in that time alone, I had to face some very ugly things about me. But you can't fix it if you don't face it.
Yeah. That's so
So you have
good.
to face it to be able to fix it. And so you face it, you fix it, you move forward, you do better, and you do what you got to do.
I think the problem today is people aren't, there's a couple things. People aren't waiting on, I guess, hearing from God to hear about a husband. That idea is kind of mind boggling to people. And then people aren't, they're not really preparing. They're just kind of rushing into whoever liked their post, instead of really getting to know people or really hearing from God. I do feel like God speaks. I know He does. And God will speak. He will speak. And so, yeah, I think that this advice is very rich advice to save a lot of heartache for people and to
If
really
I can give one more piece of advice to that, let me warn you guys about something. The enemy gives good gifts. He heard what you wanted. He heard you on the phone telling your homegirl, "I want a man that's 6 foot with muscles who works at the bank." Don't be fooled when that man with muscles that works at the bank comes walking up thinking that your father sent him, because your father is not going to send you what you want. He's gonna send you what you need.
Right.
So just
Wow.
know, just know.
That is so powerful. I actually heard those same exact words. I am single currently, because I believe in waiting on, like you're saying, and I heard those words before. I was in a this was years ago. This is before I even got married. And it was a person of interest, but I I heard those words. I will not give you what you want, but I'll give you what you need. And I think that's one thing that people fail to look for is, well, to be honest, you don't know what you need. That's why it's tough to just jump out and, because you don't know who knows what you need, like what does he mean what you need? Does he mean financially what you need, emotionally, spiritually? So like there's like all these different components to that word need. And
Yeah,
that's why it's important that people don't just rush into, oh, he looks good, or oh, he was nice and he liked my post. Like you got to really kind of just take that thing, to prayer and seek God and figure it out. So I appreciate you shining light on that fact. But I know you have so many different things. You're also a life coach, and a motivational speaker, correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
well, when I went through my courses for to go into ministry, I had to I didn't have to, but for me, I had to take life coaching. I had to take a few, even though I didn't want to be a psychologist, I had to take a few courses. I even got certified to be a mental health first aid responder because how can I only speak to you from the spiritual and not from the physical as well? They have to intermingle. Every time you come to me, I can't say it's the devil. I have to be able to say, okay, let's talk about this and that. You know, Dr. White, what I'm talking about. And so,
Everything is the devil. Okay, it's just the devil.
yeah, and so what a lot of people think is because you minister that you only minister on actual scripture. But as a woman, and normally, whether no matter what I'm speaking on, it's always nearly geared towards women. And so, because I believe so strongly in being a Proverbs 31 woman,
Right?
Proverbs 31 woman, she had a business.
Yes, you
She put her
did.
house together.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to do some things. And so I needed to be able to communicate outside of the spirit realm in normal,
Yes.
transparent language and explain to them how to build their businesses and how to build their homes. And if they were people who just had normal jobs, how to use your normal job and still grow, how to be a strong mother, and how to put all of this together. Because what I learned is if you could reach a person normally and show them how what they have accomplished actually came from the blessing, where the blessing fit in, it's easier to get them to understand spiritually the Father. But if you can't show them, if they're hungry and you're just saying pray, 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 but you haven't given them a sandwich and their stomach is still growling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, distraction is coming through this stomach growl. They can't pray.
And
So
that's
you
tough.
have to.
That's tough because I know you're a pastor. The first thing I think of is like you'll have all these people in ministry that will go to the response, I'm praying for you, but they've not helped with the natural need. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, we see so much of that in modern society today. And so I think it's imperative what you're saying to meet the needs of people as well. Like if you're going to hold that seat, in ministry, then you have to kind of assume responsibility in doing your part, not saving the world, but doing your part to help contribute to the greater cause of helping people.
The one thing I've learned is saving the world is helping one person at a time. I've never had the dream of having a mega church or any of that. My only prayer daily is that I can help one person at a time. Not and it doesn't have to be financially, it doesn't have to be with giving them clothes. If I can say one thing to you that makes your day bright, If I could say one thing to you that makes you not give up, it's very, very, very small to some people, but it means the whole world to someone else. And that's what so many of us have gotten away from with
Right.
ministry. We're so busy trying to be holy, we forget we dirty.
Yeah.
And
Holiness
so
is tough, but yeah, I get you.
you,
Holiness
you
is tough.
I hate to say it like that, but you know what I mean? We're so
Yeah.
busy with our robes and our hats and our pomp and our circumstance till robes and hats are for graduation.
Yes.
We need to be able to, and I used to wear dresses all the time, but I'll tell you, my uniform is some jeans and a shirt because I got to get down on the ground if I need to get down on the ground. I got to hug you whether you're not whether you're clean or not. I have to not be afraid of my cleaner bill
Mm.
when I'm dealing with the things of our Father. I just I got to be able to get dirty.
Yeah.
So many people turn their nose up. Oh, where's your don't do that because you see them over there that I need to be able to get to them. You've already found what you need and that's fine, but they need to know that someone still loves them.
Mhm.
And they need to know that it's okay to be a little dirty. And this person who just left the strip club who needs to know that they don't have to do that anymore, but that somebody loves them even though they do.
Right.
It's some other things going on that we got to reach.
Right.
But I have a
Absolutely
word
correct.
of encouragement for you. See, you had to do some things by yourself because in the process, you really didn't have time for him. You may have had days that you wanted a him, but you didn't really have time for him because you had to get you to where you are. Now that you have that that beautiful piece of paper and that nice official doctor stamped on front and you've gotten a few books out of the way, now you have a little time to let someone in who can deal with that because see a lot of men are intimidated by that power from a woman, but
No.
there's going to be a man that is not intimidated by it, that's going to still be able to come in and say, okay, Dr. White, I see you, girl, but I'm going to lead you, and together
Well,
I
I'll
call
make sure to invite you to the wedding when it happens. So.
I'll call but just know it's not far off. Just know it's not far off.
I'm just laughing, just receiving. Thank you. I'm sorry. Welcome to the Real Talk Show.
Yeah, that's what we do. We talk real.
Wow. I wasn't expecting a word from the Lord on the show. So thank you for
That
your.
I wasn't expecting, but scripture says if he give it to you and you don't deliver it and something go that blood, I can't have that blood on my hands. I
Yeah.
done did too much of my own dirt. I have to go ahead and tell you.
Well, it's time for me to start getting ready, I guess. So thank you. And you have been a joy. And I know people are probably wanting to hear how can they reach you and get in touch with you when the books are released. They might want to buy a copy or they might want to talk to you about life coaching, pastoring. Maybe they want you to preach the word. Maybe they need you to do motivational speaking. Maybe they need you to help with accounting services or help them with copyright issues. How can we reach you, Precious?
The simplest way, because I have an email for each entity, of course, but the simplest way is just to email me at preciouswain@gmail.com. I
Okay.
answer all email within 24 to 72 hours. Or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just look for Precious Swain Peaks. I'm there on all of them.
Okay.
Definitely, I'll answer. I'm so very thankful that you invited me.
Thank you. This was a
I
blessing to have you on the
pray,
show.
I really, really pray success
Thank you.
in your endeavors because you have done everything to earn it. And watch what happens with this show.
Thank you.
You've been using it to bless and give a exposure to other people that you didn't have to. Watch.
I received that. I received that. So thank you so much. We have much celebrating to do in our futures. So
Yes.
you guys, thank you so much for tuning into this awesome Real Talk Show with Dr. India White with the amazing guest, pastor, entrepreneur, Precious Swain. And you guys just tune into this, like and share it. If you want to get on the show, feel free to reach out to me via email, or you can send me a message on Facebook and we'll get you booked. So again, thank you so much, Precious, for being on the show.
You're
You
very
guys
welcome.
have a phenomenal night. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.